Hey, happy November. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylah Raye. If it's your first time here, I am a full-time software engineer leading a team of 6 after just 5 years in IT. My channel is for first-time leaders, new developers, and women in tech looking to take your leadership and lifestyle to the next level. If that's you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. Today, I'm going to spend some time talking about some crucial skills that I wish someone told me about when I was starting my first software engineering role. You know, as you're learning a programming language, that's really your focus. It certainly was mine. Just understanding the language, being able to read and write in the language, and do some cool things with the code. But once you really start to make some small projects, once you are on a team, you start to work in some real life code, you realize things don't always work the way you expect them to. There's gonna be bugs. There will definitely be days when it's not working and you can't figure out why. That's where debugging comes into play. It's a skill that has been so necessary for me to use every single day that I wasn't taught in my boot camp. And so I really wanted to start here just so that new developers really understand that things aren't always going to go the way you expect them to. You're going to have to step through the code line by line. And so debugging is really the process of locating an issue in the code, finding the source of an error, and walking through the code to see how it's really responding. So when you're running a program, when you're launching a website, you see some type of output or final product. But sometimes it's not going to be showing what you expected. And so that's when you will put a breakpoint in the code that will pause it while it's executing. That will allow you to take a look at the variables, to view the objects and see what the data looks like at that point in time in the code. It'll also allow you to examine some of the conditional logic so that you understand, with the use case that I'm testing, where is the code actually executing? Is it skipping part of the if block that I needed to actually go into? And that will help you start to understand where the problem is and why the problem is occurring. It's super helpful if you know how to use the debugger well. And so I would say in whatever IDE or browser you're doing your local development in, look up the best ways to debug in that language or in that IDE so that you know exactly where to go when something isn't working. You're not wasting time just rerunning something, but you can actually take a logical approach and step through it to understand why it's not working. Learning that process really helped me to understand how important also writing good tests were as a developer. So you may or may not have a manual tester on your team, but as a developer, you have to understand all of the ways that your code could really break. There are so many edge cases depending on what you're coding, and you want to make sure you're testing all of the limits. So whether that's the highest value a user could put in, the lowest, something in between, and something out of your limits, you want to make sure you're not just testing the happy path. We know how we want it to work, and we might see it working that way, but in production, you see all kinds of unexpected scenarios. So you want to take the time while you have something in your local environment to really try to break it and think through what those scenarios were. It allows you to make sure that the code that you're writing is secure. And it also really just strengthens your critical thinking skills and allows you to see things or force yourself to look at different perspectives. There are a ton of different ways to test code. There are unit tests, there are integration tests, there are end-to-end tests. As a new developer, you really want to focus on mastering unit tests. And unit tests are going to be testing your code at the smallest unit possible. That will allow you to really save yourself some time later on, because the last thing that you want is for a user to find a bug in your code in production instead of you spending a little bit of extra time writing some good solid unit tests in your local environment. So you want to make sure while you're coding for any project that you are using your resources. There's so much information online that you don't have to struggle alone. Nobody is expecting you to memorize that whole API. You don't have to know every single string method possible. All you have to know is where to look. And so as a developer, you want to make sure that you're really reading documentation. People didn't spend all of that time creating these docs for nothing. So take advantage of them. There are so many resources at your fingertips, from Google, yes, Google, Stack Overflow, and everything in between for you to really be successful in this role. So take the time and do the research on how other people have approached the problem that you're trying to solve. Doesn't mean that you're going to copy and paste every single thing, but definitely don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. Take advantage of your resources. And one of the biggest resources that I think people really underestimate, especially as a new developer, is code reviews. So other people's code is going to tell you so much about the program. It will help you to understand the application. But more than that, it shows you different ways to approach problems. There are 1,000 different ways to solve the same software problem in a lot of cases. What you can do is actually spend time reading your coworkers' code. That will allow you to be exposed to new approaches, new perspectives, and you can always take screenshots, ask them questions, leave comments in the pull request, or even set up time for them to help you understand how they got to their solution. It's really going to help you build relationships, but even more than that, it allows you to add things to your toolkit that you might not have been exposed to yet. You might not know about this new library that they're using. And it really just makes you a stronger developer, because you're going to have to maintain other people's code at some point anyway. So why not take advantage and use something that's already likely a part of your role for a learning opportunity instead of looking at code reviews like a chore. The last thing that I really want to talk through and address is that progress is the goal, not perfection. When you're programming software, you are not expected to know every single thing. So don't hoard your pull requests. Don't hold on to your application or your piece of code until it is perfect. We have all interacted with software that is imperfect. You see bugs in production. While we don't want to see them all the time, and certainly don't want to be introducing bad software into the world, you have to start somewhere. So raise the pull requests. Allow people to give you feedback and learn as you go. You want to fail fast. You don't want to hoard something for 2 weeks when you know your sprint is only 2 weeks, and then you only have a couple of hours, or you have to work late to fix something. Once you get the code working, once you have solid unit tests and you walk through it and are sure and confident that it is the right solution, raise the pull requests. They're probably going to find something for you to fix anyway. So don't rob yourself of the opportunity to grow in that moment. It's never going to be perfect. There's code that I've written that I would love to go back and refactor, and sometimes there's time, sometimes there's not. But you have to learn to balance your priorities between wanting to understand how everything works, wanting to really master the code, and also delivering on your commitments. Don't hold on to something so tightly that you are missing deadlines and dropping the ball. So just something to think about. Software development is a continuous learning journey. You're not going to know everything the first year, or even the first 10 years. And software is constantly changing. And so the programming languages that we're using now, we might not be using in 30 years or even 5. We really don't know. And so the more you embrace the fact that things are going to continue to evolve, it will definitely make you breathe a little bit easier. So those are my quick tips. Those are my must-learns for new developers after you've already learned your first programming language. I definitely hope it was helpful. And if you have tips that have helped you on your journey, as always, leave me a comment. Until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.